Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boom and Gloom, a Columbus Blue Jackets fan podcast where I talk about the boom, the good, and the gloom, the bad, of our beloved CBJ. I'm your host, Anthony. You may have seen me on social media platforms using the handle Whaler Jacket, and I am Ohio's longest suffering hockey fan. Yep, 48 years old, and I have watched my favorite NHL team, the Jackets and previously the Hartford Whalers, win a grand total of one playoff series in my entire lifetime. Not to mention watching my favorite college team and alma mater, Miami University, lose a national championship game after being up by 2 goals in the last minute of the game. I challenge anyone out there to find a longer suffering hockey fan than me. That's the little intro I usually give for anyone new to the podcast. For anyone returning, welcome back. Glad to have you here. I usually don't record an episode so shortly after a previous episode, but the 2025 trade deadline has come and gone, and I have a bunch of thoughts I wanted to share with you. First, let's talk about what actually happened. The Jackets made one, possibly 2 deals, depending on if you look at a waiver wire pickup as a deadline deal. First, they picked up Christian Fischer, a 27-year-old Chicago-born player who was with the Detroit Red Wings. In 45 games this season, he has 1 goal and 6 assists. Obviously, with those kinds of stats, it's apparent that Fischer is not exactly a first-line offensive dynamo. No, he's a 4th-line depth player. Now, at 6'2", he gives the Jackets some extra size and does allow the team to send Joe Labate to Cleveland if they are so inclined. And I believe they have done that, if I read correctly. So this was a meh move for me. You know, it gives the Jackets another depth forward, fine. But is Fischer an actual upgrade from Labate? I mean, I know he has more experience, but I thought Labate was fine on the 4th line. So were the Jackets trying to improve their 4th line here with this deal? Not sure of what else thinking about this one. I think I would have been happier if they just called up like a James Malatesta or another younger player to give him some ice time at the NHL level. Fischer is a bit of a head scratcher to me, but not one that I'm all up in arms about. You know, I'm not all upset about it. It's fine. It's whatever. Then came the only actual trade the Jackets made on deadline day. They traded a 4th-round pick, which was the one that they acquired from the St. Louis Blues for Alex Texier. And they traded that to San Jose for Luke Kunin. I think that's how you say his name, Kunin, not Kunin. But we'll have to see how Steve Mears says it. So Luke Kunin, he's a former 1st-round pick of the Minnesota Wild, 15th overall back in 2016. He has shown a little offensive skill in his career, but let's be honest, on the Jackets, he's going to be a 3rd liner. I'm sure he can play higher in the lineup if needed, but he's a 3rd liner. And before I go any further, I would like to also mention that apparently his wife is also a very good hockey player. Sophia Kunin is her name, Kunin. If you were unaware of her as I was and want to Google her. But back to Luke. like Christian Fisher, this is more of a depth signing for the Jackets. This was not the trade I was hoping for. I admit, I should say, that I was hoping for a top 6 winger to give the Jackets a boost for their playoff push. I was disappointed. I'll admit it. I was disappointed with the outcome of the trade deadline. And the key word there is was. I was disappointed. I have gained some perspective and have changed my tune a bit. But I will get to that later. For now, Cunnin will slot in until Sillinger or Monahan comes back. And then once Sillinger or Monahan come back from injury, though, boy, will the Jackets have some interesting lineup decisions to make. I've said it before. I don't want anyone coming out of our lineup right now. Anyone out of our current lineup. When the season started, I figured LeBanc, JVR, Aston Reese, Olivier, and Putia would rotate as the extra forward. And, based on performance, they'd be the ones to move in and out of the lineup as needed. LeBanc is now done for the year. Putia is heading to Cleveland, at least I think. I can't remember, but I thought I read that he was heading back to Cleveland. And I don't want JVR, Czar, or Olivier out of the lineup. I love this team the way it is. So I just don't know what they do when Sillinger and Monahan come back. And I certainly don't want to entertain the thought that there may be additional injuries along the way to deal with. But I don't know what they do. They're going to have some very interesting decisions to make. Who is going to sit? If everyone is healthy, it's almost like everyone there has a good argument to stay in the lineup. Now let's get to what the Jackets did not do at the deadline. Told you what they did. Brought in Fisher and Cunnin. But let's talk about what they did not do. They did not weaponize their cap space. I hope that they would serve as the third team in a trade where they can take on some salary and gain some draft picks for doing so. But they didn't. I can't be too upset about this, though, because Don Waddell spoke in an interview after the deadline and said he indeed tried to make those kinds of deals. He said he actually had some in place, but they fell through for the other teams that were involved. So that really wasn't his fault. I'm assuming he put it out there that he was willing to help broker trades, but no other teams came to him with something that made sense for the Jackets. And I believe him. I believe he tried. He tried to make it happen. Sometimes things just don't work out, though. But that was not the only thing the Jackets did not do. They did not trade Ivan Provorov. They did not trade Daniil Tarasov. Now, before I talk about Provorov, let me explain what I mean about Tarasov here. He wasn't really talked about as a potential trade target, but it was someone I was keeping my eye on because, as we all know, Jet Greaves is on a one-way contract next season. Greaves will be a Jacket next season unless he is traded, which I doubt. That means one of Elvis Merzlikins or Daniil Tarasov has to go. Elvis has played better this season and has a contract that is very unappealing to other teams. So I thought to myself, there may be a surprise. No one's talking about Tarasov. There might be a surprise here. Deadlines, trade deadlines, sometimes people are traded that you just don't see it coming. I don't think it was at the deadline. I'm pretty sure it wasn't at the deadline, but I remember being, for lack of a better term, blindsided by Oliver Bjorkstrand being traded. Did not see that coming. So I thought, there's a chance, there's a trade that's going to happen that we might not see coming. And I thought it was going to be Tarasov. I thought to myself, Waddell might try to move Tarasov for, a pick or a prospect. Then grab a cheap replacement for him for the rest of the season, and then be ready for Greaves next season. But that did not happen. He decided to hold on to Tarasov, so it really is going to be interesting this summer as Waddell and the team decides what the goaltending tandem is going to be, what the goaltending situation is going to be. It's going to be interesting. Now, as for Provorov, I, among many other fans, as early as a few weeks ago, as late as a few weeks ago, I think that's what I'm looking for, expected the Jackets to trade Provorov at the deadline. He is on an expiring contract and would have brought in at least a first-round draft pick in return. At least. Now, well, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season, and we could end up losing him for nothing. Or he could be re-signed by the Jackets. And that is a whole other story that I've discussed on previous episodes of this podcast. Let's say they re-sign him this summer. Okay, let's just say they do that. Here's what our defense would look like. Provorov, Werenski, Matejchuk, Severson, Christensen, and Goodbranson. That's 6. And that doesn't include Dante Fabro. For the heck of it, let's say they re-sign Fabro. He has played well on the top pair with Werenski. I mean, let's admit that. He has. They've had good chemistry together. It seems like they like having him on the team. Should we assume he comes back then? Again, assuming he does, that gives the Jackets 7 defensemen. Every Jackets fan I have spoken with agrees. And just about every post I see on social media agrees that the Jackets should want to upgrade, improve their defense next season. But if they re-sign Fabro and Provorov, how do they upgrade it? They won't trade Werenski, of course, or Matejchuk. They just extended Christensen. I mean, that's a vote of confidence if I've ever seen one. Severson's contract is untradeable except by some miracle. That leaves Goodbranson as the only candidate. And I don't know if they want to trade their biggest defenseman, who is a leader in the locker room and brings physicality to the lineup every night. But something has to give, right? So that is why I was utterly baffled with Waddell's decision to not trade Provorov. Again, the key word there is was, and I will explain that shortly. I was baffled. You have a guy who would bring in some very good assets in return. Plus, you clear out a spot on defense. A spot that you can fill in the summer with an upgrade of some sort. And you might be able to use the assets you just acquired to help facilitate a trade for that upgrade. Don Waddell decided to keep Provorov on the roster. And he may have even said something like that he's confident he can get a deal done with him over the summer. Now that baffles me and continues to baffle me. If that happens, then I don't know what to expect. I guess that means that they would not re-sign Fabro and maybe attempt to bring in a top-tier defenseman to play alongside Werenski. I don't know about you, but I think it's silly to choose a more expensive Provorov over a no doubt cheaper Fabro. Someone who has played so well this year with Werenski. But that's just me, and I have to trust that Waddell knows what he's doing. But at the time of the trade deadline, my thought was, wow, this is the first time I really truly disagree with something that Don Waddell has done. But then, a Reddit post changed my thinking. I'd like to read you that post, and of course, give the poster credit. The poster's name is Hingle McCringleberry, spelled HNGLKRNGLBRRY. So Hingle McCringleberry without any vowels. Awesome name, by the way. Great obscure reference to a Key and Peele sketch. Well, let me read you his post. Okay, this was on a thread where people were discussing what happened at the trade deadline. So again, these are not my words. This is the poster on Reddit. We are ahead of schedule right now. We are supposed to be bottom dwellers, racking up picks and not forfeiting them. Waddell can afford to be more patient than Yarmo, who had to rush a rebuild once we signed Johnny and ownership was wanting to see a winning culture once again. Right now we have 2 firsts, ours and Minnie's, both of which are going to be mid to late first rounders. Adding a third mid to late round pick doesn't really help us. In our entire history, the only late first rounder I can think of worth a darn is Chinnikov. And then he notes, he goes, remember Reichel, Dano, and Kuhlmans? Yeah, me neither. Also, some things are bigger than hockey. And this is where he really gets into the good stuff. I think hold on. There we go. Also, some things are bigger than hockey. These guys have been through some serious trauma together. It is a safe assumption that part of the reason the team has played well above expectations is because of their close bond and the cohesiveness in the locker room. Reminding them that they're all expendable, and this is a business, is going to contradict the message they've heard all year that they are a family. I think we need to go back to September and remember what our expectations were. Sorry, my wife just sneezed. I don't know if the mic picked that up. I know mine were that we'd be dead last, but hopefully the younger players would take a step forward. I honestly wanted to just skip the season altogether and go straight to the draft lottery. The fact that we're playing meaningful hockey is already a massive victory, and I'm not going to judge the success of this season by whether or not we make the playoffs. We moved the needle forward, and now we can build on this season to keep pushing forward. How's that? End of post. Wasn't that awesome? Just an excellent, excellent post. It just reminded me of what I thought at the start of this season. Never in my wildest dreams did I think we'd be fighting for a playoff spot right now. So just a fantastic post. It honestly made me rethink my disappointment with the Blue Jackets trade deadline activity, or lack thereof. There's not much more I can say different than what Hingle McCringleberry posted. There are some things that are just bigger than hockey. These guys have been through hell with losing their good friend and best player. I think that is often overlooked when we look at this season. The Jackets are on the cusp of making the playoffs for the first time in 5 years, despite losing their best player, despite coping with his tragic loss. These guys have come together as a team and have overcome the greatest of adversities. From what I've read and heard, the locker room, they've come together as a family. Okay, they are a cohesive unit. Not one of those players wanted to see another one depart via trade. They have a bond like no other. And I know that sounds corny, but I mean it, okay? No other team has experienced the trauma the Jackets faced with the death of Johnny Gaudreau. Yet they did. And they put together this kind of season? It almost seems impossible. That should be celebrated. And that's why I changed my tune. I was at first frustrated that the Jackets didn't make any major moves, that they didn't acquire any top 6 players. And maybe Don Waddell tried. Maybe the deals just were not there. But the fact is they did not acquire any top 6 players. I was disappointed, especially since the last 2 games against Tampa Bay and Florida showed that the Blue Jackets, as currently constructed, are not Stanley Cup contenders. They're really not. I mean, anybody, you could go on a run, okay? Any team can do it. But if you look at the team on paper, they are not Stanley Cup contenders. They were outclassed by both Tampa Bay and the defending Stanley Cup champions. I would have thought, seeing those games, Waddell would have said, yeah, that settles it. I've got to do something. If we're going to have a chance at making a run in the playoffs, I have to do something. I would have thought that. And again, maybe he did try. But I was annoyed, I was disappointed. But again, thanks to that Reddit post, I see it differently now. I'm okay with what Waddell did, and I honestly kind of admire him for taking that approach. NHL hockey is a business. I get that. I understand that. But some things will transcend the business part of it. This was a decision made to reward a clear overperformance of a season. It was a decision to honor the death of a loved one. And it was a decision made to celebrate a team that has bonded together in the face of unfathomable, I can never say that word, unfathomable adversity. They have stuck together all season. They might as well stick together for the rest of it and see what happens. I read somewhere that Waddell even mentioned a few players had contacted him and expressed their desire that no one be moved out of that locker room. I respect the heck out of the players for doing that. If circumstances were different, I would say, screw what the players think. This is a business, and this is all about winning. Let the GM make the moves if he wants to make them. But this season, very different. Very unique situation. No team has suffered as much as the Jackets. So Don Waddell, I'm in. I wasn't in, but now I'm in. I respect you for what you have done for this team, and if the Jackets end up making the playoffs, or if they don't make the playoffs, if they do and lose in the first round, doesn't matter. I will look back at this season as a success and as a major step in the right direction for this franchise. I mean, it finally feels like we are headed in the right direction. I mean, there have been many years, many seasons where we thought, okay, the future looks bright, But was it really bright? I mean, really, this feels different. This feels what it should feel like when you say the future is bright. Then this summer, I'll look forward to the moves that the Jackets make to take another step in the right direction. For now, as excited as I am about the possibility of making the playoffs, I think I just need to step back and enjoy the fact that, one, the Jackets are playing meaningful games in mid-March, and two, that they are exceeding all expectations for this season. If they had finished dead last in the NHL this season, everyone would have understood why. We Blue Jackets fans, we would of course not be pleased with a last place finish. I mean, nobody would. No fan is ever happy that their team finishes last. But we would have completely understood the circumstances behind it. Instead, this team, they've given us a lot to cheer for this season. Not just with their performance, but the stadium series, the new players that have come in. It's been a fun season. So I'm going to try to have a positive attitude the rest of the way and just be thankful for what we fans have witnessed this season. I am a pessimist. Always have been. So that's kind of hard for me to say. But I'm going to try. Positive attitude the rest of the season. Before I go, just another quick note here. Does everyone see how Denton Matejchuk has cracked the lineup permanently? Sure, he's made his share of mistakes, but he has also shown that he belongs in the lineup. It makes me wonder what David Juracek and his agent think about that out in Iowa. Just some food for thought there. Okay, that's all for now. Hoping the Jackets will snap out of their funk against the Rangers on Sunday. There is a decent chance my son will be at that game at Madison Square Garden. He is out currently visiting my parents in Connecticut. So if he does, hopefully he brings some luck with him and the Jackets finally solve the Rangers this season. Hopefully they get back on the winning side of things after 2 tough losses to the Lightning and Panthers. And, more importantly, earn some very much needed points in the standing. The standings are so tight right now. There are so many teams involved. It's very exciting, but also very stressful. We'll see you next time on Boom and Gloom. Until then, please feel free to connect with me on Instagram at WhalerJacket, or you can find me on Blue Sky at WhalerJacket. Always open to questions, comments, suggestions. If you have any of those, send them my way. See you next time. Go Jackets.